Welcome to 90s Noise. I'm April, born 1991.
And I'm Ashley, born in 1988.
All right, so before we get this episode started, just a little bit of a disclaimer. These two TV shows that we are going to be discussing have had a lot of controversy with some of their actors and actresses in media throughout while they were going on right after they went off the air, and even up until most recently, just a few days ago. With that in retrospect, we're going to be discussing purely the shows themselves. We're not getting into any of the controversy, and we do not condone, agree with, we're not a part of anything that these actors or actresses have been dealing with. Whether you agree with them or not, we are not here to put them under a microscope. We're not putting the celebrities under a microscope for their actions. And so we just want to get that out there before going into this, because while both of these shows are very near and dear to our hearts from growing up, there have been some things that have come out, whether recently or in past years, revolving both shows, honestly, that
Mm-hmm.
we may not agree with, you may not agree with, whatever everybody's opinion is. We are here talking about the shows themselves, not the people who portrayed in
Very well said. Couldn't agree more.
them.
And with that,
What?
we shall get into our TV show battle for this round of. Well, one show came out in 1991, the other show came out in 1986? 87.
87.
1987. Yes.
87, the 1987 show did go until 95. Our
Mm-hmm.
91 show went until 98, I believe. 98,
99,
99.
I believe.
Okay.
Yes, 99. So the both of these shows surprisingly had 8 seasons to each of their names, which is kind of a pretty long run for a sitcom, as they are both sitcoms.
Absolutely. It'll be a little different on how we do this, but we're just gonna jump right on in. So our two shows were Full House, and
Home Improvement.
we're gonna start off by kind of going on about how each of these shows were big to us in the 90s, growing up with them,
Mhm.
and then kind of dive into a few of the episodes. We gave each other episodes for the other show to watch and kind of bring back some memories. So
Oh yeah.
it was a good time, that's for sure. So for
I
my
had a hard time picking some episodes, let me tell you.
I,
There's so many good
I'll
ones.
be honest with you, Ashley. I gave you, I think, the episodes that stuck out to me the most,
Okay.
that I have always remembered, like after seeing them for the first time. And
Mm-hmm.
then even now in later years, I still go back to those specific episodes. I'll just start it off here. So Full House was
Mm-hmm.
a very prominent show for me growing up. I watched the shit out of that show. I think that's what started my Mary Kay and Ashley love,
Mm-hmm.
was Full House. And I would always watch it growing up. I don't know if it was necessarily one that my whole family would watch, but anytime it was
Yeah, I was
on,
gonna ask, did you watch it? Because I know that was like a big TGIF show. I was gonna ask, did you watch it on Friday nights or did you watch it more in rerun syndication?
honestly, this is one of the first shows that I can remember watching on TV. And so, with that being
Mm-hmm.
said, I believe I watched the later seasons as they came out. Born
Mm.
91, obviously, I didn't watch the early seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And those progressed once they were doing reruns. And so I would always like go check the TV guide and see when Full House was going to be on. Whatever channel it was would do a 2 hour stint of Full House, like 4 episodes.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, hell yeah, get 4 episodes in. And
Right?
I loved that. Absolutely loved it. But yeah, Mary Kate and Ashley were a big part of that for me. I just loved their character of Michelle. I loved all the characters on it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that getting to see them on that and then progressing into their other work, which we'll discuss at a later date, that is going to have a full episode
Mm.
all unto
Mm-hmm.
itself. But for Full House, it was a good family show, and I think I did make sure that at some points my family was sitting around and watching it with me, like on the whatever days I'd be able to get to pick what we watched. If Full House was on, that's what I wanted to watch.
Right. Yeah.
Did
Completely
you
agree
ever
with that.
did you ever watch Full House growing up?
I did. I don't have any I don't have any memories of actually watching the show, but I did ask my mom about was I a fan of Full House, and she said, "Hell yeah!" Like I loved that show. So I'm like, okay, well, I think it was partly me and my sister both loved the show because there was enough characters on there for us to, relate to with our ages. But it's funny. I do remember a lot of the episodes and a lot of the ones that you sent me. They are very memorable, like you said. Like they kind of do stick with you.
Mm-hmm.
And there is something about it that I can definitely remember, but not actually watching the show. Like to me, it doesn't seem familiar. Like I watched it as a kid. It just seems more like something I watched when I was older. But I obviously did watch it when I was a kid, so it's very strange. I don't know what memory I'm pulling from, if it's from a later one or a younger one, but it's weird. Full House is such a classic show, and I love Full House.
Absolutely. Definitely do myself. You and I actually got to meet John Stamos a couple
We
years ago
did. Yeah. We saw the whole dad crew, to be honest, just didn't get to physically meet the other two,
and been kicking ourselves in the
sadly.
asses ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Full House, that's just one of those that you can just sit and watch. I feel like at any age. And as I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it's for you, but when I was younger watching it, I think part of my love for Mary Kate and Ashley was their character Michelle was the baby and had two older
Mm-hmm.
siblings. And so I
Mm-hmm.
connected with that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Michelle had two older sisters, I had two older brothers, so there was obviously some differences
Right.
there. But now and then as growing older and watching it, you start to relate to other characters too.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I was gonna ask you, do you feel like you enjoyed the earlier seasons or the later seasons once like the twins came into it? Where did you lie in that? Because I feel like there's almost a division on the show when that happens.
There really is. So personally, I think more of my favorite episodes were from later seasons, but I don't necessarily. I think that's partially because of them being older, because it was still mainly focused on the three girls and the guy. I think it was also just because their storylines were more interesting. Like instead of it just being mainly like DJ and Stephanie and then the guys, Michelle was more added into that because she was older. She just wasn't
True.
a baby in a crib.
Right.
I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily care too much for the Nikki and Alex part
Mm-hmm.
because I felt
Yeah.
like it was too redundant from
Exactly.
Michelle.
Yeah, that's my thinking on it. Like I personally preferred the earlier seasons, like seasons 3, seasons 4, and I just felt like once they introduced the twins, just exactly like you said, but also there was too many storylines going on. There's
Hmm.
too many dynamics to the household. Now there's just I would probably pull all my goddamn hair out living in that household with that many people. I don't know. I couldn't
Absolutely.
do it.
I
I would go out of my mind.
I couldn't either. Especially like I know how it was with two older brothers and food in the fridge.
Hmm.
With all of that, like
That grocery bill. alone.
I'm surprised Danny Tanner didn't have a freaking heart attack just from that alone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, once Steve came into the picture and started eating all their
Oh
food,
my
like,
gosh.
you're not even a part of the family. Kimmy, everybody, like the whole goddamn city was in there eating their food.
Because of context and the fact that just as we're recording this, just yesterday, I had gone to a convention and met Jason Marston, who
Mm,
plays a love interest of DJ's in season 8. I'll be honest with you, and you're gonna need to go back and rewatch some of those episodes and let me know
I
your
do need to
thoughts.
watch those. Yeah.
Because
Yes.
while Steve was great and everything, I personally prefer Nelson as DJ's boyfriend.
Oh, he played
Yes, he was
Nelson. Okay, I
Nelson.
know Nelson
Yes,
now. Okay. Okay, that puts everything together. I was
yes,
like, who does he play?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I even told
Oh.
him that. I was like, I was always
Oh.
a Nelson. I always root for Nelson because he had such a big heart and he was
Yeah.
intelligent. And
Oh.
I mean, I liked that DJ didn't care. She liked him, but it wasn't solely because he was a rich person like Kimmy.
Right.
Kimmy's interest in him was. I really did like Nelson's character. I personally thought that they made a great couple. I understand
Mm-hmm.
Steve being the long-term love interest and all this kind of
Right.
stuff.
And I almost feel like Steve had a lot of similar qualities as her dad and her uncles did. So you know how that always ends up being like when they say you marry your dad, which no, but like you marry qualities from, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of
Yeah,
where that stemmed from.
which I understand, but I don't know. I love the actor who plays Steve,
Oh yeah.
also voices
Mm-hmm.
Aladdin.
Oh yes.
His character was just a little too, I guess we always call it the saw dudes. I guess in a sense like a bro, I guess would be a
Mm,
good term for it to
yeah.
maybe describe. I didn't
Almost
feel
seemed like
like
he
he
was
was,
trying too much sometimes.
yeah,
Mm,
and a little bit too many things going over his head, I guess,
yeah.
for his age, for his
Right.
his character's age,
Exactly.
obviously. Where again, like I was always a Nelson girl. I always liked him.
Yeah, no, I can put that connection together. I think that could have been an interesting way to do a little plot twist at the end of the show and be like, oh, guess what? It ends up being DJ and Nelson in the end, and
Yeah.
that would have been kind of cool. Did he never came back for Fuller House, did he, for the reboot? He never did like an appearance because I know they sometimes talked about like exes and things like that. I don't remember
Uh-huh.
if he did or I don't think he did, but
I
I don't know. Did
I
you watch
saw
the
him
reboot
in
actually now that I'm mentioning it? Did you watch all of the seasons?
I did not watch all of the seasons.
Uh-oh.
I watched a couple of them. I think
Okay.
I watched the first two.
Okay.
So just looking real quick, it doesn't look like he came back
Okay.
for it.
Okay.
For some
But
reason I
maybe
thought
they
he
mentioned
had,
him. He
but
may not have come back, but I'm almost wondering if they mentioned him though. I feel like they
I
maybe
think they
did.
might
Yeah,
have.
I'll have to do some research on that, but that's kind of funny.
Wish they would have done more with him
Right.
or brought him in sooner,
True.
not
Yeah.
just season 8.
Yeah, that's true. They kind of missed the mark on that one, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably kind of busy doing other things and, because
Yeah.
tying all that in, like he did Boy Meets World, which I found out that Full House and Home Improvement both had guest stars from Boy Meets World actors. Did you know that?
Which was
So
in Full
Danielle is
House.
in Full House and Ryder is in a Home Improvement episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Now I gotta double check and remember and to remember which
She
episode Danielle was in.
Danielle plays, I believe her character's name is Jennifer, and she's kind of like I think she's in Stephanie's class, and she plays. I don't know if she, you,
Okay.
you know, I'm like
Yes.
kind of. I don't know if she's like
I
a
think I remember.
snooty character or if she's like,
Yeah,
you
kind of.
know,
Yes, Jennifer
you know,
P. Yes.
yeah.
Okay, now I remember. Which also makes sense because there was a commercial. I don't even remember what it was for, but both Danielle and
Oh
Jody
yeah, I
were in
remember
it
that.
together.
That does make sense because I was always
And
kind of like, wait, what? Why are these girls in the same commercial together? Like, where are they? That makes
and I think
sense.
there was somebody else in it. I
There was
can't remember
somebody
who.
else. Mm.
Was it the girl from, oh my gosh, what was it?
We just saw watched that not that long ago. I think you sent it to me or something. Danielle Jody. Okay, it was Larissa from the Alex.
Larissa, that's
Yeah, I
right.
thought that's who it was, but
Yes,
I
yes.
okay. I don't know how she got into the
Yeah.
mix though. That's kind of strange, but I guess being a
Well,
Disney
that her
Channel,
show was
like a Disney
on
Channel.
around the same time,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure they all were kind of the same age and everything too.
It just and that but that commercial, not that it relates to this at all, but
It
that
was,
commercial they're older and the commercial is geared towards like really young kids. I'm like, you're not selling what you're selling. I'm not buying what you're
you're not,
selling.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, girls, no.
Are you really going to be playing with that at
Exactly, no, they're
15,
not playing.
16? And this is more for girls of 7 or 8.
Right, I know. I was like, we love you, but no.
Yeah.
So something else that I thought was kind of cool about these shows was that both shows had another show within the show,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so Home Improvement had Tool Time,
Mm-hmm.
and Full House had a couple of different shows. We have the radio show, we have
Ooh.
the, what was it, Ranger Dan
Oh yeah, the Ranger one. Mm.
with Joey, and then we have
Wake Up. Was it Wake Up?
Wake Up San
Wake
Francisco.
Up San Francisco.
Yeah, it was very interesting on that. And I
Yeah.
think since they were both in front of a studio audience, that was kind of a way to
Mm-hmm. Include the
bring in
audience.
more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was cool. And I do like that aspect of it, which is I feel like these are like sitcoms that were like the end of an era. Like they, like we had mentioned before in a previous episode, they don't really do that live studio audience thing too much anymore. It's very rare. And this was just a common occurrence for these shows. I mean, they did some 200 episodes each, all in front of a live studio audience. Like that's
Yeah,
nerve-wracking as fuck.
exactly. And I think part of that, I mean, really anymore, the only live studio audiences, or if they do it anymore after the pandemic, is the talk shows.
Mm.
I think they did for WandaVision.
They
Didn't they
did
do
do that.
that
You're
for,
right. Mm-hmm.
which they talked about how it was so weird going back to that, which I think was probably extremely weird for
Oh
Elizabeth
my God.
Olsen,
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
sister of Mary Kay
Because
and Ashley,
she
who would
had
be
experience
on
on
set.
set.
There's so much to say about Full House, but we're gonna keep going on that here shortly. But let's turn the table a little
Turning the
bit,
tables.
and let's talk a little bit about Home Improvement.
Yeah. So I will say that I feel like I preferred the show a little bit more over Full House, just in the sense that I know, heaven, just because I feel like I remember watching this show as a kid more so than I did Full House, even though I obviously watched both. But
It
Home
was
and
because of JTT, right?
yeah, you know. I mean, he was probably a small part of it. I mean, it doesn't hurt. So,
Is this his fault?
but no, I just remember this show being something that I could watch with my dad. And I know that it was something
Mhm.
that we really enjoyed tuning into on whatever night it came out. And so it was just a way for us to sort of connect because while it was a show more geared towards, not necessarily, I don't know if it was more geared towards guys, but it was a family of boys. And you had Tim who was leading the tool time and he was all about cars and he was all about tools and things that I definitely could care less of when I was a kid. But it was things that my dad was super interested in. And even the way that Tim dresses, like, very similar to how my dad dressed. And I'm like, okay, who's copying who now? Because it's just hysterical. And I was just cracking up watching that. Even though my dad is way more competent with tools and building, like he has no problem with that. Like he's amazing. So he does not take after him on that part, thankfully. But yeah, I don't know, it just brings back different memories than Full House does. So that's kind of why I really love rewatching all of those episodes.
So definitely agree with you on that one because Home Improvement was something I watched with my dad too.
Mm.
It was one of the only shows that he wanted to watch. My
Oh.
dad's never was a big like TV sitcom
Right,
person.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
It was either like just checking out the news or watching sports for
Mm-hmm.
the most part. And this show was one that he would. We knew when it came on, we were watching with dad.
Exactly. Yeah. You knew you had no problem switching the remote over to the channel that Home Improvement was going to be on, and he wouldn't, our dads wouldn't complain about it. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, let me grab some popcorn while I'm at it and kick back and watch it."
It was one of those where it's like, oh, he's upset about something. Home Improvement's coming on in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yep.
We good?
Mm-hmm.
At least for half an hour.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely can't get enough of. It's so crazy the comedy in it, and while I know it's kind of over the top and cheesy and whatnot, and it's kind of repetitive in a lot of the episodes as to you kind of know what's going to happen. Like it's very much the same from episode to episode as far as, okay, Tim's building a new thing. Okay, Tim's going to add more power to whatever he's building. And oh, he's going to fuck it up. He's going to get hurt. Somebody else is going to get hurt. And it's going to be a hot mess. But it's just hysterical. I don't know. I just love it.
Very true. It is. And it's nice that to see that other dynamic. Because I don't know if it's just me, but there was a lot of sitcoms that it was a lot of times they did do a lot of single parents or
Mm,
widowed or something like
right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just because Full House was such a
True.
big part of my life that that kind of dictates that. But seeing the mom interact with the boys also
Mm-hmm.
and kind of having to be that parent figure to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always just fun to watch. Like,
Yeah. I feel like the dynamics from honestly both families were very relatable. Like it was on a level where you didn't watch the show and feel like, okay, like kind of like, how Fresh Prince, it was a rich family, they had a butler, like it was almost to a sense where it was just a pure fun show to watch, but not
mhm.
necessarily super relatable storylines. Whereas I feel like Full House, Home Improvement, they were putting on more stories that it just looked like a typical family, like just
Yeah,
anybody could be in that town and or that neighborhood and be living there, and just their house decorations in general just looked like a very cozy, comfy house you could just walk into and be like, hey, you're invited over for a sleepover. It just seemed like a
yeah.
really, really nice family dynamic that they
And
portrayed.
I did like how, while they're both sitcoms, I did like how Home Improvement utilized a little bit more of the normal house
Mm-hmm.
than Full House necessarily did. Like they utilized the backyard a lot
Right.
more. I mean, there was Wilson the neighbor who they interacted with every episode,
Exactly.
whereas there were a lot of episodes of Full House where it was just solely based in the house,
Mm-hmm.
or there might be a school scene, but mostly inside.
Right.
But with Home Improvement, they definitely branched out, which was nice
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it did bring a different dynamic to the whole show and how it felt. Like you said, you didn't feel like you were just stuck in, because that's the problem with some of the sitcoms, is that you get stuck into one or two rooms for the majority of the show, and you don't really get to see or feel kind of the characters anymore than what you're being shown. And Home Improvement, I felt, did a really good job of incorporating the whole house, so you can kind of walk your way through it and go out in the backyard, and the kids will be playing or whatever they're doing, and then your dad's over there having a conversation with a neighbor like anybody would in a suburban neighborhood. Like it just felt really real.
For sure. I did love how a lot of times it was if the kids were out playing around the neighborhood, it was just a holler was their cue to come back. That
Right.
was such a 90s thing.
Mm-hmm.
Such a 90s thing.
Yes, we were just talking about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
come back in.
You have to stay within yelling distance.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't hear when mom or dad's yelling for you to come home, you've gone too far.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Kids going out to catch the bus and shit happening on the bus, and just, yeah. so many things that definitely as a kid growing up, it screams the 90s. It just really does. Just the wardrobe, like everything. And what I was telling you about with the season 5, like the earlier season, the earlier part of the season 5 is that, and I was going to ask you if this was something that was the same for your brothers. All three boys had the exact same haircut. Like literally
Yes.
triplets. But that really didn't
Yeah.
happen throughout the whole show. It really only seemed to be focused in on this one part of the season. And then they always had different hairstyles and stuff, but why were they all exactly the same? It was really weird. Even Tim's hair almost looked very similar. I'm like, what is going on right now? It's like a cult. Like,
So I wonder, number one, I wonder if that was maybe around a time where they had had a break. Because was it longer or shorter? I can't remember on that.
they were all pretty like longer. Like it was a
Long
longer that long. It was like that mid 90s haircut. I feel like everyone had that's that longer flowing.
season five, that would have been what,
It's like I think it was
96-ish?
95 or 96ish. I mean, depending on when they shot it and when all of that.
I'm just wondering, in regards to thinking about it, around that time, probably when JTT
Mm-hmm.
was filming Tom and Huck,
Mm.
which he had the longer hair for that. And then maybe it just kind of was a coincidence or something, or
It
maybe
had to.
the
I'm
others had
hoping it was
other
a
things
coincidence
filming.
because it was like, But that's what I was asking. Did your brothers ever want or end up having the same hairstyle for any reason? Like, was it something?
Okay, there's a difference between want and having, for sure. Yes, they did have the same hairstyle for a little bit. In our house, we each had a picture frame. We would always have year pictures, like whether we went to a studio or if it was school pictures.
Okay.
Once we got into school time, it would always be updated each year. For like 3 or 4 years in the 90s, my brothers both had the same exact
Aw.
haircut, and they were 3 years apart. So thankfully, being a female,
You were like,
I
oh
didn't suffer through
shucks, I
that.
don't have to have that haircut.
Yeah, now, and I don't know if that was, I know why. My mom was cutting their hair at that time
Oh, okay.
because that was a lot more common,
Mm-hmm. It
was
was, yeah.
for parents to just cut their hairs. And it was the whole page boy, or what
Wasn't it like
people
a bowl
call
cut
like the
a lot of
bowl.
time? The bowl
Hmm.
cuts.
The bowl cut.
Yeah.
Because you just,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My sister, bless her heart, not that it was a bowl cut, but at one point in her life she had hair like that. I don't know why.
I did
I love
too.
her, but I never did. My hair was always long. I never had short hair.
I'd go through different phases, and I a lot of times want to emulate Mary Kay and Ashley's hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
A little piece on this. But like when Mary Kate went super short,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I started off with almost had the exact same thing happen that she did. I started off with hair length how Ashley's was,
Mm-hmm.
like the shoulder.
Yeah.
My mom liked it, wanted to get hers that same, so I wanted to go shorter so it was different, which is
It's
in a
exactly what
sense the
Mary Kate
same
did, I
thing.
think.
Yeah, because she wanted shorter. Ashley liked it, so she got the same, and so Mary Kate's like, chop off another couple inches.
We gotta be different.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. I love that. Another thing with these shows, which I think is kind of common for a lot of sitcoms anyways, is but they both had catchphrases. Do you like any of those catchphrases? Are there any that you really thought worked or that you find yourself ever saying?
That I find myself ever
You
saying.
got it, dude.
Don't make me laugh. Ha ha
uh,
ha.
uh, uh.
Absolutely. Either, I think my favorite meme is one of the "You got it, dudes,"
Mm, yeah.
or "How
Oh, I
rude."
love that one. I wish I could say that all the time.
I constantly, like, if I'm like trying to reach somebody and they won't pick up the phone and then they call me
Oh,
right back, I just automatically answer, "How rude."
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I've used that one quite a few times. Yeah, I love that one.
I don't know if I necessarily I can even name any from Home Improvement.
I feel like his are almost more just like the grunting and the, you know, how he, I can't do it. That sounds
Yeah.
stupid. But, and like more power. He always says that because everything's got to have more power. I think there's something else he says, but obviously Wilson's "Heidi ho, neighbor." Like that's a
Yeah.
classic line for
I
him. He always says that.
for sure. So going back to Full House, I also always do the have mercy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Absolutely. That one. Yeah, they all really have. I feel like every character on Full House had their own catchphrase, didn't they? Because, yeah, like Joey, Jesse, Michelle, Stephanie, what's her name? GJ had, well, I don't know if did she, I think it was maybe on Fuller House that she had her catchphrase. I don't know if it was on Full House where she'd be like, "Oh, my
I think it was
Lanta."
Fuller House.
Uh,
Fuller House is the
Yeah.
Oh My
Yeah,
Lanta.
I don't know that she had anything on.
So Joey's, which would you say would be
Joey always
Joey's?
did the cut it out.
But okay, that's yeah. Cut
Cut
it
it
out.
out.
Yeah.
But I don't think Danny had anything, did he?
Not to that extreme
Yeah.
that it was so many times said. Yeah. I mean, it was always just more of a running joke with Danny about like the cleanliness.
Oh yeah.
I gotta go clean. I something in regards to the cleanliness
Oh yeah.
would be more of his.
So what is your take on the Full House theme song though? I think that's a literally like a classic theme song.
Absolute classic. And I love how they do the opening.
Yeah, that was cool. I do really like that.
I think that was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it just slightly changed every season.
Right, you did. You got some changes in it.
They updated it with each person
Mm-hmm.
and because they were growing. I still really like the theme song.
Yeah.
And it's one that you could just find yourself humming throughout the day.
Yeah, yeah, I like it. Apparently there's like a longer version of the theme song that like they utilized on some seasons or some episodes, but it wasn't kind of like how Fresh Prince did a longer version, but then they stopped. I read that they did have a longer version of that song as well, but I can't say that I would ever feel like when I was watching the opening I would ever catch myself with a longer theme or not. So I'm not really sure what it sounds like.
I know I've heard it. I just can't tell the difference like without
Hmm.
truly re-listening to it
Yeah,
one at a time.
right. Yeah.
And then your mind kind of does the creates its own memories where you're like, oh yeah,
Oh
this was
yeah.
the theme song. Like this is I
Sure.
know where this is from, and then you're like adding into like your mind the opening credits, and you're like, okay, yeah, like what do you mean this is a longer version that wasn't used? This was totally used.
I mean, I can almost see like a longer version being used in the later seasons just because there are so many characters at that point. I don't think that's when it was used, but I'm just saying I could see that as being something that happened
Yeah.
because I mean, yeah, I mean as the show went on, it seemed like there was like another person every season they're adding on and adding on. Like you got the Comet the dog and then so
Comment.
yeah.
Now, did you know that for a lot of people, when watching Full House, the original seasons, like the first few
Mhm.
seasons, they didn't realize that Michelle was played by two people?
I mean, I don't think anybody did.
Well, because of how they listed
Well, right.
her
Well, I
name.
don't think they changed that until like season what, 7 or 8?
Seven or
It
eight,
was
they
like
didn't
yeah.
add the
Mm-hmm.
and.
Because they didn't want people to
It was just
know.
it was just Mary Kate Ashley Olsen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there wasn't the social media at the time
Exactly.
or internet or anything like that. It took a little bit of time for that.
I mean, it's not like even in the first season you could tell them apart. I know later on in the seasons, I could definitely
Mhm.
tell them apart. You know, rewatching a lot of these, I can definitely pick apart who was who as they aged more. But the first season when they were a baby, I probably wouldn't have a clue.
Really? There's a few little,
There might be some clues, but
yeah, and then just also like watching the different Hollywood stories or stuff like
mm-hmm.
that regarding not just the Olsens, Mary Kate and Ashley, but Full House in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like one or two of those behind the scenes
Right.
documentary type
Yeah.
things that they go into a little bit deeper detail about things. Hey, I mean I do understand like the Hollywood trying to get as much bang for their buck.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I mean, the reason why it canceled is because it became so expensive to run the show. But I mean, I feel like that's partly on them too for having 20 people in their main cast. Like, what do you expect? By 8 seasons, everyone's going to be
Yeah.
demanding high dollar. Like that's kind of on them for that's why nowadays sitcoms, one, don't run for as long of, they don't have long seasons, and two, you don't have a huge cast. It's very small. Like you only have a core group. So that's my thinking on it.
I definitely understand it. Although I do have to say, this whole short seasons
I
for
hate
anything,
it.
whether it be a sitcom or just a plain TV show, fucking
Yeah,
sucks.
it's shit. Can't.
It's annoying as hell. Bring me back the 22 episodes. I understand that like now it's they can film an entire season in a month and a half or whatever, and it ain't all that in a bag of chips. It is extremely frustrating because you get so engrossed in something and then most of the time they just end.
Yeah, and then you have to wait a year.
Where's the next episode?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard for us to really get into much of these newer
right.
shows because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we go back and watch so many of these old shows, whether it be from the early 2000s back to the 90s, is because, hey, this is a 20 to 24 episode
Mm-hmm.
season.
Exactly.
It's a good story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are able to develop and build upon stories and sort of, I don't know, you just see a different viewpoint on characters and their connections with other people because it's almost hard when you only have a couple episodes to get invested in people. It takes you so long to kind of get into a show to begin with. There's only like 2 more episodes. You're like, wait a second, I'm just getting into it. There's characters are just getting going and now you're ending it? Like, that blows my mind.
It really does. And it's extremely unfortunate.
I mean, I know that sometimes these longer shows, I know Full House had and Home Improvement both had episodes that were not good. Yes, there are probably a lot of dud episodes within their seasons. Not a lot, but there's going to be a handful. So you're always going to have that problem when you have those really long seasons. There's going to be episodes that just don't work or whatever, versus when you do a shorter run, all the episodes are usually pretty strong and can stand alone on their own. But I don't care. I still would take a 20 plus season.
Some of those quote unquote dud episodes have meaning. Like
Mm-hmm.
they may not necessarily progress in the long run, but they usually progress character wise in some aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I feel nowadays you don't get the character
You don't.
development
Mm-mm.
that we used to. And that's what kills it for me
Mm-hmm.
because, yeah, I like good action and sci-fi and everything, but if there's not character development, it can be done by my favorite director, my favorite actors and actresses. You could have my favorite composer, all of that. If there's no character
Mm-hmm.
development, I can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. What can you do though?
So, let's get into a few of these episodes that we watched.
Let's do it.
Home Improvement, you gave me a few. I admit that final episode you gave me at the 11th hour before I left work.
Whoops.
I did not have a chance to watch.
Aw. I just liked it because I figured you would like it because it was more JTT based. It had, it was a storyline
Okay.
more based on him. And it was just the whole hair gate going on with everyone like,
Yeah.
as though who's who. But yeah, it was a fun episode. I just thought it was cool because he wanted his own room. He wanted to be away from his brothers. Kind of the same thing that happens in Home Improvement or Full House. Everybody wants their own room as well. But
Yeah.
his dad gets the basement and sort of makes that into his room. So I was going to ask you because obviously in Florida I didn't grow up with anything extra like that. Did you guys have a basement and would you want your room to be in a basement?
Funny story. Fifth season would have been
I think it was
96,
96.
97.
Yeah, I think it was 96.
So maybe that's where my brother got the idea from. So actually about that time, because I think right before my oldest brother started high school, my brothers had shared rooms since I had been born.
Mm-hmm.
Our house was a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath with a basement. Once started getting older, I think it was kind of more of a I need my own
Mm-hmm.
space,
Yep.
kind of the same
Yep.
situation. Because I think I remember watching that episode. I think it might have been about the same time. And so maybe it was,
Probably.
maybe that kind of went from screen to real life.
Mm.
In my family, at least, the basement we had it. It was kind of more of our game area
Okay.
slash
Mm-hmm.
toy area. They sectioned off an area. My parents they split it into two pretty much
Hmm.
to give my oldest brother his own space
Oh,
down there.
nice.
It was one of those things where I think it was great for him, but personally, our basement was always freezing cold.
Mm.
It never held heat. I'm already naturally cold as a Kansas girl who moved to Florida and doesn't think Florida should go colder than 60 degrees ever. And 60's pushing it for me. But I don't think necessarily I would have liked to have been in the basement myself.
Mm.
I mean, it was fun, but it was definitely one of those things where I don't know if you ever did this growing up, if you lived in a two-story house or anything, but you turn off the lights and run up the stairs because you don't want somebody chasing you or anything. Always.
I did not, thankfully, have a two-story house, so I didn't have to worry about that. But that is terrifying. I don't think I could do a basement room at all. No. Mm. I get scared enough in my own apartment sometimes.
I know. I completely understand.
Yeah, that's too funny. I mean, they did kind of the same thing on Full House too, where they built up they created the basement as a space for Joey to have his. That must have been a thing, but definitely not in Florida. Not a Florida thing.
Well, in Florida, you can't.
I know. So the other episode that I had you watch, I think it was season 2, episode 6. I mainly just had you watch that because when I was watching it, I'm sure you caught it, but they mentioned Full House. Like, we got to go watch Full House now. Like, and I was like,
Yes,
fuck yeah. Yep.
I
Okay.
did. Yes,
I just thought it was
I did.
hilarious.
I was. Now, there's that one, and then I was a little sad you didn't send me any with Pam in it, Pamela Anderson as the tool girl.
Yeah, I thought about that after too, because I was like, because I forgot she did have
She
some
was
time
about
there in the
what,
first
one
two
season?
seasons. I think she was there for the first
Yeah,
2 seasons. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then came
Yeah,
back
I don't
in
really remember
for.
her. I don't really remember her as much as I remember Heidi.
I remember her honestly, and I
Really?
don't know if it was
Okay.
because of Baywatch, and we would sometimes watch, we would just sometimes have that on and everything.
Mm.
Yeah, I do remember her in that, but I also do remember Heidi, and just yeah, a mix of different people from it.
Yeah, they had some interesting guests throughout, I think. There was the one episode, oh yeah, the one episode I gave you, which was in season 6. They had a pretty big guest group.
Yep,
Who's that?
which that was well a little preview of it was there was a let's see which one's my favorite. One of my favorites from theirs. I'm gonna kill myself for doing this, but ba 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 brand ba 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 brand.
Don't sue us. Don't sue us.
No, no, that's all out of pure love and everything. But Beach Boys, the Beach Boys,
Yay.
fucking love the Beach Boys.
I just loved Tim's comment though when he met him and they introduced themselves. He's like, "Oh yeah, you guys do this song, this song, this song," and like none of the songs were the songs that they sang,
Yeah,
and they were
until
like,
they got to Little Do Scoop.
I'm like, okay, buddy, you don't know.
Yeah.
He's just making up stuff.
I loved seeing them on so many on the 90s shows. I mean, they were also on Full House.
Mm-hmm.
I sent you
Yep.
that one to rewatch. So I had a couple stories regarding this, but I love them, and I still to this day kick myself in the ass for this one. My oldest brother was a huge Beach Boys fan. That's I think part of the reason why I like watched Full House, made sure definitely watch that episode of Home Improvement. His first concert, I believe it was his first concert, was the Beach Boys, and I think it was the Eagles or Chicago. I can't remember.
Mm.
Don't quote me on that. But this was like back in 95, I think.
Okay.
90s. Yeah, I think it was like 95, 96 maybe. my parents had asked both my other brother and I if we wanted to go with them, or did we want to go hang out with some friends for the evening that would babysit us.
Oh, April, don't tell me. Don't tell me what you picked.
I, being a young child, wanted to go hang out with my best friend at the time, which I had fun.
Aw.
Don't get me wrong, but I didn't see them. And it wasn't until 2018 that I finally saw the Beach Boys.
Well, hey, you got to see him at least.
I got to see them. I was front row, dead fucking center. I
Ooh.
was the first person into Universal
Hell
Studios
yeah.
for it. And I sat my ass down, and everybody knew that I was the first person there. And I think I got up twice to go to the bathroom throughout the day because I was just adamant about it. Got to see their sound check, and another little reference here. You want to know who was a guest with them that day?
Ooh. Who?
John Stamos.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
cool.
Because like 2018 Twitter was still super, super
Mm-hmm.
popular. It was just on, and of course was already following John Stamos because of Full House and all that. He posted like 2 days before the show and said something about being down there.
Hmm.
And I posted something. I think it was a meme from one of the episodes because Beach Boys are in a couple Full House episodes.
Yeah.
I think they made 2
Mm-hmm.
appearances. I think it was this a little meme or GIF, whatever, from the second, not the one I had you watch, but the other one
Mm.
when they're doing like the telethon.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And he's up there singing. It's
yeah.
him and Mike Love. And I posted that. I was like, when you're so excited that John Stamos is going to be at the Beach Boys concert, you are already planning on going to. And he retweeted it.
Really?
He did. Yes.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
I was so excited about that. So I was
Damn.
front and center. I've got a shit ton of videos up on my YouTube. We'll add the link in the description if
Mm.
anybody cares to see it and everything. But entering the last song was Barbara Ann. John came out, and there's like the gate, like the barricade, and he like ran in front of the barricade and was like giving high fives to everybody and stuff like that. Fucking incredible show. Made me love watching anything with the Beach Boys on it even more. They actually have connection to Kansas.
Really?
Mike Love was born in
Oh,
Kansas,
okay.
if I remember
Okay.
correctly. Like in school, we did a famous Kansan report
Mm-hmm.
that we would do because January was the month that Kansas became a state and everything. So we would always do something in
Hmm.
regards to that. And when I got to the grade that was the famous Kansan report, I picked Mike Love because I love the Beach Boys. I did like a big report on it and everything and got into a lot of deep details on that. That's another story time, but absolutely love it. That's why I was like, when I saw that, it's one of those things where I was watching, but also had a few other things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, out of the corner of my eye, I'm like, wait, okay, that is. I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was cool that they were on both shows. So I was like, well, she should probably watch this episode just because I'm personally, I'm not a Beach Boys fan. I don't really know their music much. I know some of their songs, but I can't say I'm a huge fan, but I didn't grow up listening to them. So just not something I ever listened to, unfortunately.
Oh my
I
gosh.
know. I know.
That may change.
Yeah, I know. I gotta branch out some and listen to some more music.
I like them because they're fun. Their songs are all just really
They
fun
are,
to
yeah.
me. And we're going to have a little bit deeper discussion about how you are not a Beach Boys fan and
Mhm.
how we can change that.
Yeah, we could probably have a whole podcast on things that I'm not a fan of and that you're not a fan of, and how to
Yeah.
convert each other to be
I
fans
mean,
of.
in a sense, we kind of have that going because we had such a different experience growing up
Yeah.
that's really shaped. I mean, again, my oldest brother, he was a huge Beach Boys fan.
Mm.
He liked that music when he was growing up. And so of course that's something that I knew at a very young age. And there were just certain songs that have always stuck with me. If I remember correctly, I think even Muppets like did like a, for some reason I'm seeing like Kermit the Frog like singing a Beach Boys
I
song.
kind of
I
thinking
could
that
just
too
be like,
myself for some reason. Now that you brought it up, it kind of, I feel like that was something that happened.
yeah. And so I think that on top of everything else just added to it for me. It is what it is.
Uh,
I had you also watch, besides the episode, the Beach Boys episode.
mhm.
Do you watch the Disney ones, right?
Yeah, yeah, those are classic. Those are so memorable. I feel like I didn't forget anything about
Abs-
those episodes. I'm like, I remember everything that's happening. This is weird.
Absolutely. Like I can still see those episodes. Like I haven't watched them in a while,
Hmm.
but those that two-part Disney World vacation that they did, I remember like it's the back of my hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that looks so fun though. That looked like such a cool vacation. Oh, we're so lucky. All that shit that they got to do.
I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed because it was a couple years later is when my family and I came down to Disney World, and there wasn't like that sword in the stone or anything like that
Well, didn't they go
that
to
they had.
the? Did they come to Walt Disney World or was it the California one? Because they're different.
I thought they did Disney World because I thought they had made it a big deal.
Oh, okay. Maybe they came down here. Because I was wondering that too. Because I definitely don't remember like that big. I mean, maybe it was only there for the show. They may have put some extra props out for the
Mm.
show to have in the park. Because like that big genie thing, I don't recall that
Uh-huh.
ever being there. So I don't know. But like I said, because he was in Aladdin, I feel like they probably added in some extra things to like.
No, it was down in Disney World.
Okay.
Because I think that was the big thing was that it was an actual vacation
Mm.
outside of
Versus you.
California
True, they do live in
because
California. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah, that
whereas
makes sense.
I think because they did like a few other things with Disney.
I think yeah, they did do some other things that were happening. They were a part of to promote the show and like promote more
Yeah,
Disney stuff. And yeah, yeah, I think they certainly did. And plus with Steve being in Aladdin and all that, it just everything kind of came full circle. Yeah, I love seeing all the characters though, because that was cool. Like Chip and Dale there,
absolutely.
and Mickey
Yes.
and Pluto and Minnie, and those are cool. Ugh.
Like I said, when we came down, there was a part of me that was sad and disappointed because I don't think they had that actual like tea time with the characters like that. Or if they did, it was like hella expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't have an opportunity to pull the sword out of the stone and be princess for
Right,
a day or
exactly. Yeah.
anything
I
like that.
definitely think that was only for the movie, but I don't
Yeah.
know. I think my favorite part, which not to get into it too much because that's like a whole episode for Disney, but the Indiana Jones thing, that was always my favorite. Like, I liked that part of the episode. I thought that was cool where she's like imagining it was Steve the whole time, and I just thought that was hilarious.
And she jumps up and like, and everybody's just like, even the actors kind of just like, once he pops up, he's just kind of like,
You
what's
lost it.
going on in here? I love that. Like that. And I think that's part of why I enjoy this show so much. It's just some of those like goofy moments
Mm-hmm.
that as a young girl going through the different things,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's preteen, teen, you go through something like that. Like, I mean, hell, even as an adult, like you see somebody and you're like,
Uh,
hey,
just kidding.
not that's not you.
Yeah.
That's the taxi.
Oh my God.
I really like Full House. It's a good show for me. It's one of those where I can turn it on and
Mm-hmm.
just let it play.
Yeah, it's yeah, it really is such a feel-good show. There's so much humor in it. There's so many strong family dynamics, like well, not just Danny, but Joey and Jesse, they're all teaching the girls a lesson in this episode, and they do have some very hard-hitting topics that they sometimes discuss, which, kind of always broke it up a little bit. It wasn't just all pure comedy. They would every so often throw in something that was a little bit like, okay, wow, like that's a little bit big. So I did
Like
like, What's
tearjerker episode I sent you?
um, the
Jesse's
okay, yeah.
uncle or
I'm
grandpa?
like, of course she sent me this episode because she's trying to get tears. Like she would have to pick a sad one.
So I was going off of the episodes that always been memorable to me.
Well, what's
And
memorable about that
that
one?
one was
Why? Why?
the scene at the end where Michelle's going to school
Mm-hmm.
and it's show and tell,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
she gets up in front of everybody
Yep.
and
The
she's
dance.
breaking down about the dance.
Yep. That, yeah. I was gonna say that was the only scene for me too, where I was like, I remember this dance. It's so cute and
Mhm.
innocent and like, oh, it's so touching.
Absolutely is. And I liked how they dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good for a family show to see all the dynamics.
Right.
It wasn't like it was a huge accident, like an accident or
Mm-hmm.
something, like peacefully, and everybody's reactions and explaining it to a child
Mm-hmm.
at such a young age.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if it truly did, but I think that could have been a good buffer in a sense if somebody was dealing, like if a family was dealing with that
Mm-hmm.
around that time or anything
Right.
like, or anything, they could kind of use that as an example.
Yeah.
Then breach the topic of death to a younger child
Mm-hmm.
who may
Exactly.
not quite
You don't
understand it or
understand.
grasp it.
Yeah. And how do you explain that to someone? So I do like when shows are able to kind of break it down and put it in a way where it's not too mature or, only for adults to understand. Like they do have parts where it's like, okay, adults have their storyline, but let's go to the kids and how are they dealing with it? And it's kind of almost like the wedding episode where Michelle marries Steve. Like they all think it's a fun joke, but
Yes.
she has something completely different in mind, and they have to now at the end explain to her like, "Sorry, it was all a joke." Like, they all thought it was innocent, and poor Michelle was dead set on Steve and her were now married, and they were gonna go have their honeymoon. It was just such a sweet episode. But yeah, one of those big life lessons that you have to learn growing up is sometimes people are joking and it's not all serious.
Absolutely. It would be especially hard in that situation because you grow up with people who are constantly joking. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
what's joke
Right.
and what's real?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think there's actually an episode that touches on that where Joey's left and Joey's the substitute teacher.
Oh yeah.
And Michelle's like, "Oh, this is gonna be great. He's always so much
Mm-hmm.
fun and all this kind of stuff, and we can do whatever."
Yeah.
And then she gets in trouble and gets
Mm-hmm.
upset with him, and it's one of those where it shows that there's that fine line that needs to be drawn
Mm-hmm.
between
Exactly.
adults and children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to separate the two. And Home Improvement did that too as well with their kids. Tim was a big jokester and, always goofing around and stuff and playing jokes or whatever and didn't always seem that serious. And they had to do the same thing. They eventually had to crack the whip sometimes and be like, okay, you boys need to get in line and time to.
Wasn't a good one of that with that episode that they mentioned Full House because they're going up to
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
their
they were
room.
trying to teach them manners.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they had a couple of other episodes kind of like that as well. They were trying to get away with doing something and it was like, no, like that's not gonna fly. And so, it couldn't always be the mom having to lay the law down. The dad had to be involved too at points and be like, okay, so both parents are on board. Just because one says it, they both have to say it type thing.
Yeah, and I did really actually enjoy rewatching that episode,
Mm-hmm.
especially especially where it's like where I'll give you anything you want, and he's thinking, hey, I know what she wants, and she's like, all right, anything? I want season passes to the opera. And then when he's like,
Whoops.
when he's trying to teach him the manners and stuff, and he's like, if you guys don't do this, then I'm gonna be stuck listening to the opera for the next year. And all of them are just like, no.
Exactly, yeah. But if it was female, probably wouldn't have minded it as much
Yeah.
maybe. So it wouldn't have maybe worked so much in that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes if you switch the gender roles, like it may have not worked as well. But
It would not have
I
worked at
honestly,
all as well.
oh no, yeah. I feel like one of the most memorable episodes of Full House for me was definitely when Stephanie put the car through the kitchen. I think that has to be like the most classic thing for me. And didn't they recreate that in Fuller House? They did do that.
I
I
believe,
forgot who does it, but it was hysterical.
yeah. Yeah, they did do that in Fuller House, and I did like that about the show. How
Mm-hmm.
many parallels it had to Full House. It was a continuation, but it was also its own story and
Mm-hmm.
everything. That was one of the reboots that I did enjoy because of all of that. And of course, their little nods to Mary Kate and Ashley.
Right. Exactly. I did, yeah, I loved all those little wink winks and everything on the show. I thought it was kind of cute to keep everything sort of tied together. And I feel like they have I'm curious, I'm gonna have to watch it, but did you ever watch the 70 show? That 70 show? That 70
Episodes
show.
here and there.
Okay.
It was a lot of times one that I'd watch just like I'd get home from school or something and it would just be on, or it was before
Hmm.
something.
Yeah, because I'm curious as to how that 90s show is, just because I'm curious as to kind of what nostalgia they bring, and I
Mhm.
just really want to watch it on that respect more so. I did enjoy that 70s show, but I'm kind of curious as to if there's going to be any sort of tie-ins to what we're talking about or anything like that. So I may end up watching a little bit just to kind of see what happens with that one. But
Oh yeah. You should also watch The Darkest Days of the 90s on Hulu. It's a documentary.
ooh, is the documentary? Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds fun.
It's actually very interesting. I watched a little bit of it,
Okay.
and it was one where like one of the episodes I'd actually gotten through was talking about Baywatch, and it talked about Pamela
Mm,
Anderson being on
okay.
Home Improvement a little bit and stuff.
Hmm.
It is a little dark,
No, I'm okay with that.
but it does also talk about like a whole episode about Beanie Babies.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Definitely have to check that out then. Always love hearing and learning some different things for sure.
Yeah.
But did you ever watch, you're probably gonna say you probably didn't. It's not really a reboot, but Tim Allen's show Last Man Standing.
I saw a couple of episodes. My dad
Okay.
was really into it. And
Okay.
so he, when they had when my parents had come down just after we had originally moved to Orlando, that was something we were watching just kind of when we were winding down at the
Mm,
apartment. I did see a few episodes, and I
okay.
felt very home improvement-y, minus tool
Right.
time. Did it?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's kind of the vibe that they were going for. Honestly, they were trying to bring that similar feel back, but now reversing the roles, and now he's got a house full of daughters and not sons. So they were trying to give you kind of, it was, and they kind of, I feel like, made spoofs on the show,
Uh-huh.
like about the show as well. But they did bring some of the characters back. Like JTT came
I was
in,
gonna say,
Al was in
didn't
there.
they
Yeah.
bring a
Mm-hmm.
couple of people in for
Yeah.
it? And
Yeah, his wife was back on there, Patricia, like she came in for something, like so that he did bring back a lot of the old cast members, which I thought was really neat. I did watch the show and I really enjoyed it, but I've always been a big Tim Allen fan and everything that he's done, from the Santa Claus to Toy Story, like anything and everything. I just have always enjoyed his work. Going back to disclaimer, I don't always support everything he does, but him as an actor, I do appreciate the comedy and the humor and just I don't know, he just fits his character so well and he just does such a great job with whatever he's thrown. That I don't know, it just feels natural. Like his role in Home Improvement just felt supernatural. Like that
yeah,
that was just him. You know what I mean? That's who I would expect to meet when I meet him. But I've heard that he's not like that. He's more like a serious type guy,
okay.
not like super jokey. But I don't know.
So really random, and I can't remember if I'd sent this to you. Did I send you the whole why Bernard was upset in Santa Claus.
Oh yeah, you sent me that
Oh,
that conspiracy theory thing.
yeah, that
Oh my
conspiracy
God.
theory with it. Oh
Somebody's
my.
going down a rabbit hole.
Yes. I mean, but that's, hey, we go down rabbit holes all the time here too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of getting back into the 90s. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can look at things differently, and whether it's correct or not, it's still fun to kind of put your little spin on things.
even if it's not verified, like we talked about with like Beauty and the Beast, like the different
Mm.
little rabbit holes of that we were kind of going down. It's one of those things where you start going and you don't stop. You're
I
like Alice
know,
in Wonderland,
honestly. There's
honestly.
so many out there, though. But it's fun, though, when you can look at things different ways and it's not just cookie cutter, like, okay, this is it. That there's nothing else to it. Like, it's cool when you can kind of pick things apart a little bit and go in different directions with it.
I do enjoy that, especially watching something as a kid growing up, and then so kid slash preteen teenage years, and then coming back to it as adult. Remember when you catch things that went way over your head as a child,
Mm,
and
yeah. All of the little, I know Home Alone had a lot of Home Alone. Home Improvement had a lot of little innuendos. I've been doing it like all day, like Home Alone, like no Home Improvement. Is it?
yeah, Home
But
Improvement
yeah, a lot
definitely
of the
had
little like
that.
sexual jabs and just you obviously didn't catch it when you were a kid, but now listening back to them, you're like, I don't know about that.
You're like, I know what they're meaning under that meaning.
Now I know what you're saying.
Now I know why mom and dad looked at each other funny after that comment.
Right? Oh yeah. No wonder they loved it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I think about both shows. Like the parents could really enjoy them along with their kids. You know, like I feel like they had a good equal amount of content that pertained to the kids, but also focused on the adults too. And sometimes even helped the parents sort of parent their own kids. You know what I mean? Their storylines came about. They're like, oh crap, my kid's going through that. Now, this kind of gave me a guidebook on how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I love that about these 90s shows or shows that were going on in the 90s.
Hmm.
Again, Full House technically started in the 80s, but it did
Right.
run through the first half of the 90s.
Hmm.
It's one of those things where they really, again, they don't make them like they used to.
They don't. Yeah. These family sitcoms are far and few between as to they have them out there now, but they're just, it's not the same. I don't know. There's just something different about them nowadays.
Yeah, I think they're too woke culture
Oh
in
God.
a sense.
I can't with that.
Or
I
just,
can't with the lingo.
yeah, like that's a big thing too.
Well, plus the technology as well. Like the technology is just kind of sometimes overpowers shows.
I hate that. I just give me a good beeper. Call me, beat me
Good.
if you want to reach me.
Oh, that reminds me about one of the episodes of Full House. Like, did you ever have a phone line in your room? Like, I know DJ had like her own separate phone line in her room. And I'm like, girl,
No,
I didn't have that.
no.
Like,
I
what?
I had a little fake rotary phone, like the what was it? The little like white with the red handle,
Okay.
the red like actual telephone. Yeah, no, I never had that.
Yeah, I love seeing all the old school stuff on there, the computers, the camera. It was hysterical, all that stuff. I loved it. It just taking me back.
Love that.
So a little fun fact though about Home Improvement.
Okay.
Apparently they were trying to, when they were coming up with a name for it, they were going to call it Hammer Time. Because you know what song was popular right around that time?
Stop.
I think they were
Every
trying.
time.
Thankfully, they didn't go with that, but that's
Yeah.
kind of funny that that was one of their options was Hammer Time or Tool Time, but thankfully, Tool Time just became the inner shows
Yeah, I think Home
name.
Improvement was a better choice.
Hmm. Yeah, more encompassing to like what they were trying to accomplish with the show because Hammer Time that really wouldn't have worked very well for anything. So yeah, I'm glad that that went bye bye. But I think for Home Improvement, though, the holiday episodes are most memorable on that show for me. Like,
Okay.
they had a lot of really good, like, Halloween episodes and Christmas episodes that, for me, those ones stand out more than a lot of the other things that happened. Because I don't really feel like Full House did a lot of holiday type episodes. Like, they had some random ones, but they weren't, I don't know, they weren't as, and I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't really touch a lot on holidays in Full House.
Yeah, yeah.
It was kind of honestly, if I'm trying to even think of like an actual holiday
I
episode.
know they had one Christmas one for Full House, and they were like, or maybe I'm thinking of something else. I don't know. Never mind.
I think I don't now that I think about it, don't think they really did. If they
I don't
did
think they did.
anything, it might have been more like Halloween because like the
Halloween
dressing
one. I
up.
feel like I remember the girls dressing up one year or
Yeah,
something
but I think that was kind of earlier on.
when they were babies.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes holiday episodes can be good and bad, I think. Sometimes I think
Yeah,
shows
agreed.
overdo them and
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes shows do just perfect amount. You don't necessarily need to do one every season, I personally feel like.
No.
Or if you're gonna do one every season, make it a different holiday. This season, the first
Right,
season.
different holiday. Yeah, you have to be, it has to be something different than what you focused on before. It can't just be the same. Okay, we're dressing up in costumes and going trick-or-treating. Like it can't be that same type of holiday, Halloween type feel to it. So, I don't know. But that was, I don't know, that's just something that I remember a lot from from that show in particular. And then there was this other episode where I believe it was Randy who was trying to throw like this little party or whatever. And so they were going to have this like dance party in their basement and he wanted like a dance floor. So, of course, Tim's like, "Oh, I can do that. I can make you guys a dance floor, whatever." But his dance floor that he makes, he like overly polishes it. So this girl like ends up getting hurt on the dance floor because it's like slick as crap. And so she's dancing and then she's, "Oh," but it was
Oh,
fucking funny. I was dying. I'm like, that is classic. So I don't think the parents will ever let her back over their house again.
nope. Nope and nope. I did like that with Full House, it especially some of the later episodes, it dealt with not necessarily super hard hitting things, but like there's the episode where and it's interesting. It did deal with a lot of those more with Stephanie,
Mm.
her best friend Gia, kind of not necessarily being the best
I
influence.
love Gia.
I did too. And when Gia got in the car accident, and
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie was supposed to be in that car, but DJ really steps up for the big sister motherly role and
Mm-hmm.
stops her and I love how it's like it's just I'm gonna tell dad and starts walking towards the door. Dad,
Mm-hmm.
yeah honey, and Stephanie just turns and is like go ahead and go. Okay. And then DJ's just never mind. It's one of those things where it's like DJ went through different things and
Mm-hmm.
is just trying to be a protective older sister. While I didn't necessarily have that myself with having two older brothers, they were more
Right.
picking on me. But
Did you guys ever try to tattle on each other?
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Still do. I feel like me and my sister still tattle on each other.
oh my brother will bring up my oldest brother will bring up stuff from freaking high school or junior high of mine is like you guys thought she was a perfect little child. I was like no, I just watched you and Eric not get caught, and it's
Oh
like
my gosh.
I watched you
I love
guys,
it.
saw what you did, learn from your guys' mistakes to not get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily
Yep.
actually. I truly wasn't there wasn't a lot that I did that consider needing to get caught or anything like that.
Yeah, me neither. I was a good kid.
I was a goody two shoes,
Goody
honestly.
goody two shoes. Did you ever read the books though from Full House that they put out, like the Michelle and Stephanie ones that they had?
Oh,
Do you recall ever having
hell
any of those?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, those were so good. Yeah.
Yes, I did. I don't know if I really got any of the Stephanie ones. I did have the Michelle
Mm.
ones for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But I might have had like one or two of the Stephanie ones. It was just that they were such easy reads for younger
Mm-hmm.
kids. Those,
Exactly. Another one of those series that you were watching the show, so you got to find out, like in the book, what else is going on in their lives, and
yeah.
it just kind of gives you a little bit more stories and stuff. Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, and I think originally though, when I first got it, I thought that was going to be kind of the same stories just in book form.
Right.
And then it was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is completely different. Like, I don't remember this
Yeah,
episode. It's like, I don't remember
yeah,
this
that made it
episode.
way more exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
I guess who was your favorite character?
In which one?
Either. I mean, I know you're more a Full House person, so that's could say that one.
When I was younger, definitely Michelle. As an adult, DJ's character more. DJ would
Really?
probably be
Okay.
my favorite. And maybe just because even at a younger age, she was still dealing with a lot of things that adults even deal with. I don't know if you remember
Mm. Mm-hmm.
there's an episode where she thinks that she's fat, and this is young
Oh
DJ.
yeah. Oh my
The
God,
first
yeah.
couple of
Oof.
seasons, she's dealing with that situation, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's Becky steps in because Becky came in on the scene pretty early on in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I may be mistaken on that because it has been a long time since I've seen that specific episode, but that one
Yeah, I don't remember all of it.
really,
I know, yeah, I know Stephanie knew about it, but I don't
mhm.
know if Stephanie's the one that did anything or if it was more of like Aunt Becky.
Yeah, I think what it is Stephanie does tell on it. She does tattletale.
Mm.
DJ gets really upset with her about. But then it's like
Oh, of course.
Stephanie's just like, DJ, I'm worried about you. When I was growing up, it was definitely Michelle because, again, baby
Mm-hmm.
of the family, loved Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. And so
Mm-hmm.
always just loved that. But
Yeah.
no, as an adult, definitely DJ.
Okay. I like it.
What about you?
So I would be the same way growing up would have been Michelle, but rewatching it now more as an adult, I prefer Stephanie's character. I just find her to be the most well-rounded of the bunch, and probably just because she's the middle child, I felt like Michelle when she, especially when she got older, she was super annoying and like super bratty and just kind of that typical, I guess at that age point. And then of course DJ, she was just a bit older, and so she was dealing with more of those older things, but Stephanie had kind of like the mixture between both. So I don't know. I just kind of felt like I vibed with her more, and I don't know. I just really like Jodie. I thought she did such an amazing job with Stephanie's character, and I mean they all did, but especially Stephanie. And even in the Fuller House season, you know how sometimes when child actors, try to keep acting when they're older, especially after having like a long break and stuff, and you're still trying to carry on the same character. Sometimes it can be just a little cheesy or just not work as well. But I thought she did a really good job with Stephanie as an adult character as well.
I can definitely see that. So if we're touching base on the Fuller House, I would probably have to say that Stephanie would be my favorite on Fuller House.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, she is very well rounded, and she still brings that in the Fuller House
Mm.
seasons. Just she's still got that middle child attitude that
Yeah.
can keeping the bigger sister in line and everything. If we're bringing Fuller House into it, yeah, I'd go with Stephanie for the Fuller House.
Yeah.
So what about Home Improvement?
I don't know. I kind of would just have to say Tim's my favorite character. I mean, I just have to go with him. I think he's just classic. And I don't feel like the boys got as much screen time as the girls do with Full House. I feel like the boys are sometimes almost pushed back in some of the storylines in Home Improvement. And I feel like Tim just always kind of ran the show in a sense where he was always going to be present and kind of overpowered some things. But I definitely don't feel like any of the boys I liked. I mean, of course, like JTT, but what
Who
about you?
doesn't?
I know. Yeah.
Honestly, I think my favorite character was probably Wilson.
Ah. Oh,
Good old
yeah.
Wilson.
I loved that character. I kind of find it hilarious that they kept the gag up for the whole show to never
Yeah.
see his face. Like
But
and just like the creative ways they brought in some random props and stuff, and I just died every time I saw that.
if you watch carefully, though, you see his side profile in that one with the Beach
Mm-hmm.
Boys,
Mm-hmm. I saw that. Yep.
and there's a couple of them where you get side profile, and I think there was
Mm-hmm.
one where you,
Like very quick. It's like
yeah,
blink and you miss it.
yeah, and I think there's one where you actually do get a full face, a full front face, but again,
Oh
you
shit.
blink and it never existed.
Oh, they did try. They did do a pretty good job for the amount of episodes they had. Like they did a pretty good job of, for the most part, keeping his face covered.
I wonder who came up with that part.
Well, I read that I can't remember who, if it was somebody within the show. I don't know if it was Tim or the creator, but they said when they were younger, as a kid, they can never see their neighbor's face or whatever. Like it was always hidden because they weren't tall enough. And so I guess it's just something that stuck with them, and they thought it would be like a funny little bit to put in the show, and it sort of stuck.
Yeah.
So, and surprisingly, like the actor that ended up playing him, there was somebody that they had hired before, but once they found out that the whole show they're going to go with their face covered, they were like, no, I don't want the part. So, joke's on you, buddy, because you missed out on a good role.
Yeah, but I can understand that situation. Like thinking
Mm-hmm.
maybe, oh, it's gonna go on for a season, and then the last episode of the season, you get to, it's done. But
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see both sides on that.
Yeah,
It's a
I agree.
great little thing, just kind of like how, talking old school here, but Charlie's Angels. We
Mm,
don't ever see
yes,
Charlie, right? It's always just the
right,
boys.
exactly.
And so it's one of those things where it's, I don't know, I just really liked his character, and I did think that that was really well done and
Mm-hmm.
kept it to where it was always interesting. Like, what are they going to use
Right.
this episode?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like a little mystery. Yeah, unfortunately, he passed, so that is sad. There's a little battle of Full House versus Home Improvement. I don't really feel like I disliked either, so it's hard to really call it a battle because I think they both did really well while they were on air and kind of pulled a lot of cool audience members. But, anyways, thanks for tuning in and share your favorite episodes from either of these shows, who your favorite characters were, whatever, and kind of let us know about that. What are your experiences watching these shows growing up? We'd love to hear from you. Tune in next week for more.
Have mercy.
Ooh, cut it out.